From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Wednesday, June 26th. This is Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton. We'll hear a fair amount from Scott Milanovich, including his thoughts on whether this is a must-win game in Ottawa on the weekend, how different a team the Redblacks are from the one the Ticats swept all 3 games last year, and on some switches the Ticats have made to their defensive secondary. Safety Stavros Katsantonis, one of just 2 players who will start in the same secondary spot as he did last week, will discuss that briefly as well. As you can tell from that recap, the Ticats were back at it today, trying to cook up the antidote to their as-yet winless start. They'll be changing their direction in reality because the CFL schedule dictates it, and also, they hope, metaphorically, because they definitely need a win. With an 0-3 start, I'm not sure if this is a must-win game in Ottawa on Sunday night, but it certainly feels as close to it as you can get without it actually being one. After road losses in Calgary and Saskatchewan surrounding a frustrating home loss to the Riders, this is their first game against an Eastern Conference team, and the Cats are the only Eastern side that is yet to win, and they do not want to lag too far behind. Chasing the division standings can be similar to chasing a game in which you've fallen into an early hole. And as the Ticats found out in Calgary and Regina, you can do it, but the odds are more against you than with you. Here's the head coach on that.
Correct. Yeah. Obviously, that's those games mean a little bit more. I mean, they don't mean any more points, but obviously the 4 teams in this league, and you've got to beat those guys. It's not a situation we were all that great at last year, so there's a little extra emphasis there for sure.
As for a must-win, that's more of a phrase from analysts, like me, I guess, than from coaches and players who focus on the mechanics and schemes, although still with an eye to the emotional health and needs of the team. Milanovich got into that today, too.
I think there comes a time where you can realistically say this is a must-win. There was, I think, 2 times last year that I told the offense, we've got to win this game. We're not there yet. I think from a mental standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, just from a team-building standpoint, I think they're all important, right? But I think this one's as important or maybe even a little more than most. So, yeah, I mean, we know what time it is. We know what time it is. We're ready to go out there and put up a good showing. I think there's part of it. Yeah, I think there's a fine line between making sure your team is doing what needs to be done to continue to improve. I think communication is a huge part of it. Where are we at? Where are we going? What do we have to do to get there? What do we have that's working well? Let's build on that. What do we have to need to improve? All those things, we're just being, I mean, you guys are getting to know me. We're just being blunt about it, and it's not tough to come into work, but there's also an urgency to get it right. And that's kind of what's happening right now inside this building.
Let's take a look ahead ourselves for a moment at the Ticats' 4th consecutive Sunday game, hard by the Rideau Canal at TD Place Stadium. Like the Cats, the Redblacks are coming off a decisive loss, 47-21, in which they, again, exactly like Hamilton, fell behind 17-0 in the first quarter. This was in Montreal, effectively taking the running game out of the equation. James Butler hasn't had much yardage since leading the league with 119 overland yards in Game 1, and after running for 95 yards in Ottawa's 23-19 upset of Winnipeg in their first game, Raquel Armstead had 26 yards and only 6 carries in the Montreal loss. The Redblacks gave up a turnover to set up an early touchdown as Hamilton surrendered a fumbled kickoff, resulting in a similar scoreboard fate. Turnovers often decide games, and the Ticats had 5 in Regina on Sunday. The Redblacks had 4 in Montreal 2 nights earlier. Also like the Cats, the Redblacks had some confusion and miscommunication in the secondary, which allowed big and timely opposition plays. The Ottawa situation to me seemed more dire, however, and it's something Bo Levi Mitchell and his receivers could and need to exploit on Sunday. But they'll have to make sure they create strong protection against a defensive line that is capable of exerting uncomfortable pressure. And it's led by former Ticat Lorenzo Malden IV and his line mates Bryce Carter and Michael Wakefield. Milanovich on the difference he sees between Redblacks 2023 and Redblacks 2024, who are 1-1.
I think they're different. They've got some new guys on the coaching staff. Obviously, Tommy's there. I have a ton of respect for him. They've got a new quarterback. Defensively, I think they look sharper. They've always had a good front. They've got a good front 6 now. I like their linebackers. They're active. Obviously, Six is a good football player they got from Toronto. And, Barron's going to play a lot of zone match coverage. And to me, they look like they're significantly better at it. Now, are there things that we feel like we can do? Certainly. But, they look like a better team to me. Obviously, the returner is a factor, too.
Ottawa, with former Ticat offensive coordinator Tommy Condell calling shots, has a potentially very dangerous receiving corps, with Justin Hardy hauling in 254 yards of receptions in just 2 games, supplemented by new Red Black Dominique Rhymes and former Ticats Jalen Acklin and Braylon Addison. Plus, they have a 2-team threat in Devontae Dedman, who can stretch the field on offense and became the first CFLer to record a return touchdown this year when he took an Alouette kickoff to the house. Hamilton needs to be fully aware of him and the Ottawa blocking schemes. The Red Blacks also had a return touchdown in each of their 2 preseason games. Now, in yesterday's Ticat Today, we caught up with John Salavanis, the longtime coach of the Ticats, who had 3 separate tenures with the team and has been an erudite on-air analyst since the Ticats audio network was founded. I think his comments are worth repeating. Coach Sal complimented Milanovich for personally taking responsibility for the team's disappointing start in Regina, but that added that, in his opinion, that wasn't the entire story. Salavanis says leadership has to emerge from those in uniform. It's not just up to the coaches, and acknowledges that there are new people at many position groups, and each of those groups needs a clear leader. But it's difficult for potential leaders, especially newer ones, to take the floor when they aren't playing well at the time.
What I'm trying to get to is somewhere between now and the time we go to the nation's capital on Sunday, there has to be some changes. The changes don't have to be personnel.
No.
The changes have to come from within the players' group themselves.
Actually, it appears from practice today that some of the changes will come in personnel. James Butler, who got hit in the head in Saskatchewan, is still in concussion protocol, and there are a number of steps he has to pass before returning to the field. And it might take much of the week to determine if he can be in uniform on Sunday. If not, Greg Bell, who saw a ton of action in training camp and in the exhibition games, will go in at tailback, and he brings a different skill set than the power-running Butler. And the 6 positions in the defensive backfield, we're including the Sam, or wide side linebacker in that, have been altered by 2/3. Katsantonis remains at safety, and Jamal Peters, who recorded the Ticats' first turnover of the year, stays at strong side cornerback. But Kenneth George moves from short side halfback to the wide side. Versatile veteran Richard Leonard shifts from halfback to wide side corner, replacing Dexter Lawson Jr. Jonathan Moxey, who joined the team early this month after being released from Calgary, where he spent 4 seasons, goes to Sam linebacker, while Sam linebacker Destin Talbot will line up beside Peters on the weak side. Got that? Only 1 newcomer, but 4 changes. Milanovich says the coaching staff will assess how that group is coordinating during the week, but my guess is what we saw is what we likely get.
I think we're just trying to get our best guys on the field. And there's some guys that were in some spots that we feel like might be better in other spots. And then some guys that maybe weren't on the field that we feel need a look. And that's kind of what you're seeing out there right now.
Katsantonis was asked about building quick communication with 4 of the 6 positions, having different players than were there last week.
Well, I think the communication isn't just an on-field thing, it's off the field as well. It starts in the meeting room. The meeting room can't be silent when we're watching film, and it's been anything but that this week, and it's been like that every week. We're always talking in there. We're always, trying to go over each scenario that we see so that when we do see it in the game, we're ready for it. So that hasn't changed this week. If anything, it's increased even more, and that's just what you want to see, and I know the coaches have definitely harped on that, to be communicating.
And Milanovich stressed again that the team needs to do much better than they have been in one place besides the scoreboard.
Well, we're losing the most important stat on a weekly basis, and that's the turnover margin. That can't continue.
We'll break it off there, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Join us tomorrow and Friday when veteran R.J. Broadhead, the distinctive voice of the Ticats, takes over the helm for a couple of days. This has been Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.